The twin suns were setting on a distant, arid planet called Avaris 9, where the rocky canyons seemed to stretch forever into a hazy, alien horizon. A human expedition team had set up camp in the shadow of an ancient, towering structure. It stood like a lone sentinel amidst the barren expanse, its dark surface pulsing faintly with energy, a beacon of mystery, daring anyone to uncover its secrets. Among the team was Adrian Cole, a seasoned exobiologist with a knack for diving headfirst into the unknown. He wasn't here to play it safe. Earth had sent its brightest minds to Avaris 9 to study signs of intelligent life, long-extinct civilizations, or so they thought. But Adrian's gut told him something about this mission was different. That pulsating structure? It wasn't just a relic, it was alive in ways humanity couldn't yet comprehend. "Cole, you're not seriously going in there without backup, are you?" called out MIA, the team's engineer, her voice tinged with worry as she adjusted the straps on her toolkit. The camp's floodlights hummed faintly behind her. Adrian smirked, strapping on his gear. "Backup slows me down. Besides, this place feels like it's been waiting for someone like me." MIA rolled her eyes. "You've got a hero complex, Cole. If you find something you can't handle, you'll wish you had someone watching your six." "I'll take my chances," he said, his tone light but his resolve unshakable. Adrian's fascination with the structure was an itch he couldn't ignore. It wasn't just the energy readings that were off the charts, it was the hum, a low, almost imperceptible sound that resonated in his chest, like a heartbeat beckoning him closer. As he entered the structure, the temperature dropped sharply. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, swirling patterns that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking. He activated his helmet light, sweeping the beam across the chamber. Suddenly, the hum grew louder. Adrian paused, his hand instinctively reaching for his sidearm. But before he could react, the floor beneath him gave way. He fell into darkness, a cold wind rushing past him. Then, with a jarring thud, he landed on a soft, moss-like surface. The air here was different, charged with an electric tension. As Adrian stood and brushed himself off, a voice echoed through the cavern, a voice unlike any he'd ever heard. It was deep, resonant, and laced with a hint of amusement. "You're brave to enter my domain, human. Or perhaps foolish." Adrian spun around, his heart pounding. The source of the voice stepped out of the shadows, and his breath caught in his throat. Standing before him was a towering figure, easily 13 feet tall. Her form was undeniably humanoid, yet otherworldly. Silver armor clung to her frame like a second skin, adorned with intricate designs that glowed faintly in the dim light. Her piercing, golden eyes locked onto his, and her long, flowing hair seemed to shimmer like liquid starlight. "I wasn't expecting company," Adrian stammered, his bravado momentarily eclipsed by sheer awe. The alien woman tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips. "And yet here you are. Do you have any idea what you've stumbled into?" Adrian cleared his throat, regaining some composure. "I'm here to study what's left of your civilization. To learn." "Learn," she echoed, her voice dripping with skepticism. Humans are always so eager to learn, yet they never ask if they're prepared for the answers. She took a step closer, her towering form casting a shadow over him. "Tell me, human, do you believe you can handle the truth of what lies beyond your comprehension?" Adrian's curiosity outweighed his fear. "Try me." The alien woman let out a low, melodic laugh. "Bold. I like that. But understand this, knowledge comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay it? If it means understanding who you are and why you're here, then yes," Adrian said firmly. His voice didn't waver, though his pulse quickened. She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a wave of her hand, the cavern around them transformed. The mossy floor became a sleek, metallic surface, and glowing symbols appeared on the walls. Adrian's helmet sensors went haywire, unable to process the sudden shift. "This is but a fragment of my reality," she said, her voice resonating with power. "I am Lyra, last of the Arcanus, a species your kind could scarcely imagine. For centuries, I have slumbered, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And now, a mere human stands before me. Curious." Adrian's mind raced. "If you've been waiting, does that mean you need something from me?" Lyra's golden eyes narrowed. Perhaps. Or perhaps I simply wish to see if your species is worthy of existing in the vast tapestry of the cosmos. Worthy? Adrian echoed, a hint of indignation creeping into his voice. We're explorers, innovators. Humanity has achieved so much. Lyra raised an eyebrow. And yet you're here, trespassing in a place you do not understand. Boldness alone does not make you worthy. Show me something more. Before Adrian could respond, the room shifted again. A series of holographic images appeared, depicting scenes of humanity's triumphs and failures. Lyra watched him intently, gauging his reactions. Adrian felt a surge of pride at the images of space exploration and technological advancement, but his chest tightened at the scenes of war and environmental destruction. Your kind has potential, Lyra admitted. But potential alone is not enough. Prove to me that humanity deserves to thrive. If you fail, I will ensure your species' path ends here. Adrian's stomach churned. He had no idea what proving humanity's worth would entail, but one thing was clear, this was no ordinary first contact. Lyra was testing not just him, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. I'll prove it, he said, determination hardening his voice. But you'll have to meet me halfway. Humanity isn't perfect, but we're not beyond redemption. Lyra's smirk returned, and for a brief moment, Adrian thought he saw a flicker of respect in her eyes. Very well, human. Let the trial begin. The room plunged into darkness once more, leaving Adrian to wonder what challenges lay ahead. But one thing was certain, he wasn't just fighting for his survival. He was fighting for the survival of his entire species. Adrian's vision adjusted to the sudden darkness, his pulse thundering in his ears. The faint hum that had drawn him into this alien labyrinth grew louder, vibrating in his bones. Then, a dim light flared, illuminating Lyra's towering figure. Her golden eyes glowed, watching him with a mix of curiosity and challenge. Your trial begins now, human, Lyra said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. To prove your species' worth, you must endure what I endured when my world fell. Step forward. Adrian hesitated. The floor beneath him rippled like water, shimmering with an eerie light. He took a cautious step, and the world around him morphed. Gone was the metallic cavern. In its place, a sprawling battlefield unfolded, the air thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the cries of the wounded. Adrian blinked, trying to orient himself. He wasn't alone. Figures, humanoid but distinctly alien, were locked in combat. Their sleek, obsidian armor glinted as they clashed with monstrous, insectoid creatures that towered over them. The sky was a chaotic swirl of red and black, lit by the bursts of explosions. What is this? Adrian demanded, turning to Lyra, who now stood beside him. Her gaze was distant, haunted. This was the final battle of my people, she said, her voice low. We fought to save our world, our future. And we failed. Adrian's stomach tightened. He could feel the ground shake beneath his feet, hear the desperate shouts of the warriors around him. This wasn't just a simulation, it was a memory, vivid and unrelenting. What do you expect me to do? He asked, his voice rising over the chaos. Lyra's golden eyes locked onto his. Survive. Fight if you must. But understand this, survival is not enough. You must choose. Choose what? Adrian shouted, but she didn't answer. Instead, she faded into the background, leaving him alone amidst the carnage. A deafening roar drew his attention. One of the insectoid creatures, its serrated limbs dripping with ichor, charged toward him. Adrian's instincts kicked in. He dove to the side, narrowly avoiding a swipe that could have cleaved him in two. Scrambling to his feet, he spotted a fallen alien warrior nearby. Their weapon, a sleek, rifle-like device, lay within reach. Adrian didn't think. He grabbed the weapon and aimed at the charging creature. The trigger was unfamiliar, but as his finger pressed it, a bolt of energy erupted from the barrel, striking the creature square in the chest. It let out a guttural screech and collapsed, its massive form twitching before going still. His relief was short-lived. More creatures were closing in, their shrill cries echoing across the battlefield. Adrian's mind raced. He wasn't a soldier, but years of studying alien ecosystems had taught him one thing: survival often depended on understanding your environment. He scanned the battlefield, his eyes landing on a group of alien warriors taking cover behind a fallen structure. They were outnumbered, their weapons barely holding back the advancing swarm. Adrian bolted toward them, dodging debris and the occasional stray bolt of energy. When he reached them, the warriors turned their weapons on him, their eyes wide with suspicion. Adrian raised his hands, the alien rifle dangling from his fingers. "I'm not your enemy," he shouted, hoping they could understand him. One of them, a tall figure with jagged, silver armor, stepped forward. Their voice was sharp and guttural, but Adrian's helmet translated it in real time. "You fight like a child, human. Why are you here?" "Long story," Adrian said, glancing over his shoulder as the swarm closed in. "Let's just say I'm trying to prove we're worth keeping around." The warrior tilted their head, clearly unimpressed. But they tossed him a small, glowing orb. "Use this. Aim for their eyes." Adrian caught the orb, its surface warm to the touch. He didn't question it. As the first of the creatures lunged toward their position, he threw the orb with all his strength. It exploded mid-air, releasing a blinding flash of light. The creatures shrieked, their movements faltering as they clawed at their massive, bulbous eyes. "Nice trick," Adrian muttered, turning back to the warrior. "Got any more?" They handed him another orb, but their expression was grim. "Tricks won't save us. We're being overrun." Adrian's mind raced. He needed to do more than just survive. He needed to tip the scales. His eyes darted to the horizon, where a massive structure loomed, a tower, its spire crackling with energy. "What's that?" he asked, pointing. The warrior's eyes followed his gesture. "A power relay. It controls the defensive grid. But it's too far. We'll never make it." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Then I'll go. Cover me." "You'll die," the warrior said flatly. "Not if you keep them busy," Adrian shot back, already moving. He didn't wait for their response. This was a gamble, but it was better than waiting to be overwhelmed. The journey to the tower was a gauntlet of chaos. Adrian zigzagged through the battlefield, using whatever cover he could find. His borrowed rifle hummed in his hands, taking down any creature that got too close. He could feel Lyra's presence, even if he couldn't see her. Was she watching? Judging? He pushed the thought aside. Focus was everything. When he finally reached the base of the tower, his chest heaved with exhaustion. The entrance was sealed, but a nearby console glowed faintly. Adrian approached it, his fingers hovering over the alien symbols. They shifted under his touch, rearranging themselves into a pattern that made sense. "Come on," he muttered, pressing a sequence that seemed logical. The door hissed open, and he rushed inside. The interior was a maze of glowing conduits and humming machinery. At the center of the chamber, a massive console pulsed with energy. Adrian approached it, his hands trembling. "Okay, big guy," he said to himself. "Let's see what you've got." The console's interface was unlike anything he'd seen, but his training kicked in. He began deciphering its purpose, his mind working at a feverish pace. As he activated the controls, the tower shuddered, and a beam of light shot into the sky. The defensive grid roared to life, an array of energy pulses raining down on the battlefield. Adrian slumped against the console, his breath ragged. Through the tower's viewport, he watched as the tide turned. The creatures retreated, their ranks decimated by the grid's relentless assault. The alien warriors rallied, their battle cries echoing through the air. A familiar voice broke the silence. "Impressive, human." Adrian turned to see Lyra standing behind him. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a hint of approval in her eyes. "I didn't do it alone," he said, his voice hoarse. "Your people helped." Lyra nodded. "Indeed. And that is what sets you apart. Cooperation. Ingenuity. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all." Adrian met her gaze, a spark of defiance in his eyes. "We're far from perfect, but we don't give up. Not without a fight." Lyra's smirk returned, and the battlefield dissolved around them, returning to the metallic cavern where it all began. Adrian felt the weight of the trial lift, but he knew it was far from over. Lyra had seen something in him, in humanity. But what came next was still shrouded in uncertainty. Adrian's breathing slowed as the metallic cavern reformed around him, its familiar hum now a low, steady rhythm. Lyra's imposing form remained still, her golden eyes scanning him as if peering into the depths of his soul. Adrian's muscles ached, his mind a whirlwind of questions, but he refused to show weakness. Whatever the next challenge was, he would meet it head-on. "You did better than I expected, human," Lyra said, her voice carrying a note of begrudging respect. "But this trial is not over. What you faced was only a shadow of the struggles that define existence. True survival requires more than brute strength or clever tactics. It demands understanding, empathy, and the ability to bear the weight of impossible choices." Adrian straightened, meeting her gaze. "I'm still here. Let's get to it." A faint smile tugged at the corner of Lyra's lips. "Very well." She extended a hand, and the air around them shimmered like heat waves on a scorching desert. The cavern dissolved, replaced by a lush, alien jungle. Towering trees with iridescent leaves stretched toward a sky streaked with violet and gold. The air was thick with humidity, the sounds of strange creatures echoing through the dense foliage. Adrian turned in a slow circle, taking in his surroundings. "What now?" he asked, wary of the serene beauty masking whatever trial lay ahead. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gestured to a path that wound through the trees, her expression unreadable. "Walk with me, Adrian Cole. This trial will not be one of battle, but of choice." Adrian hesitated but eventually fell in step beside her. The path was uneven, roots snaking across the ground, and the air buzzed with unseen energy. As they walked, Lyra began to speak, her tone softer than before. "My people once thrived in harmony with this world," she said, gesturing to the vibrant landscape. "We believed ourselves invincible, custodians of a perfect balance. But perfection breeds complacency. When the end came, it wasn't the monsters you faced earlier that destroyed us. It was ourselves." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra's gaze turned distant. "We failed to adapt, to make the hard choices when they mattered most. We clung to ideals that no longer served us, and in doing so, we sealed our fate. Tell me, human, if faced with a choice between preserving what you hold dear and sacrificing it for the greater good, what would you choose?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "Depends on what's at stake." Lyra inclined her head. "A diplomatic answer. But you won't have the luxury of hesitation." The path opened into a clearing, where two groups of beings stood on opposite sides. On the left were humans, their faces familiar yet etched with desperation. On the right were aliens, tall, slender creatures with shimmering, translucent skin and eyes that glowed faintly. Both groups appeared injured, their clothes torn and their expressions wary. Adrian's heart sank as he took in the scene. The humans clutched makeshift weapons, their bodies tense with fear. The aliens appeared equally defensive, their hands raised in a gesture of warning. "What is this?" Adrian demanded, turning to Lyra. "A crossroads," she replied. "Both groups are refugees, fleeing destruction. They believe the other is responsible for their suffering, though neither is entirely to blame. Resources here are scarce. If they fight, both will perish. If they cooperate, they might survive. But they will not trust each other without intervention." Adrian stared at her, realization dawning. "You want me to convince them to work together?" Lyra's expression remained neutral. "If you can. But remember, trust is fragile, and time is against you. Choose your words wisely." Adrian approached the humans first, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. A man with a jagged scar across his cheek stepped forward, gripping a metal rod. "Who are you?" the man demanded. "Adrian Cole," he said. "I'm here to help." "What happened to you?" The man's eyes narrowed. "Those creatures attacked our colony. Killed half of us before we could escape. Now they're here, trying to take what's left." Adrian glanced at the aliens, whose wary gazes mirrored the humans. "Are you sure they attacked first? Or could it have been a misunderstanding?" The man's grip on the rod tightened. "Does it matter? We can't take that risk." Adrian frowned but didn't press further. He crossed the clearing to the aliens, who flinched as he approached. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward, their voice resonating in a melodic hum. "Stay back, human. We want no trouble." "Neither do I," Adrian said. "But the humans think you're a threat. They say you attacked them." The aliens' luminous eyes darkened. "We were defending ourselves. They landed on our world, took what they wanted, and left us to starve. When we followed them here to plead for aid, they struck first." Adrian's chest tightened. Both sides were trapped in a cycle of fear and retaliation, unable to see the other's perspective. He turned to Lyra, who watched silently from the edge of the clearing. "You've given me an impossible task," he said. "Perhaps," she replied. "Or perhaps the impossible is exactly what your kind must achieve to survive." Adrian closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He turned back to the groups and raised his voice. "Listen to me, both of you. You've been fighting for so long that you've forgotten what you're fighting for. Survival isn't about domination, it's about cooperation. If you keep this up, you'll destroy each other, and everything you've fought for will mean nothing." The humans and aliens exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing. Adrian pressed on, his voice firm. "You don't have to trust each other completely. Just enough to start talking. Share your stories. Find common ground. It's your only chance." The silence stretched, the tension almost unbearable. Finally, the human leader lowered his weapon. "We'll talk," he said gruffly. "But if they try anything." "They won't," Adrian said, turning to the alien leader. "Right." The alien hesitated but eventually nodded. "We will listen." Adrian stepped back as the two groups cautiously approached each other, their movements tentative but deliberate. Lyra appeared beside him, her golden eyes filled with a rare warmth. "You've done well, Adrian Cole," she said. "But remember, this is only the beginning. True unity requires time and effort. Do you believe your kind is capable of such a feat?" Adrian watched as the humans and aliens began to exchange words, their voices soft but growing stronger. "I believe we have to be," he said. "Because the alternative isn't an option." Lyra nodded, a hint of approval in her expression. The jungle began to fade, the metallic cavern returning once more. Adrian knew the final trial was still to come, but for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity's survival wasn't just about strength or ingenuity. It was about finding a way to bridge the gaps that divided them, no matter how impossible it seemed. Adrian stood in the metallic cavern once more, his body weary but his spirit unbroken. He had faced trials of survival and unity, each testing not only his resolve but the very essence of humanity. Lyra observed him in silence, her golden eyes reflecting both admiration and something deeper, hope. "You have done well, Adrian Cole," Lyra said, her voice softer now, almost reverent. "But there is one final truth you must face before this trial is complete. A truth that will determine the future of your kind." Adrian straightened, meeting her gaze. "I'm ready." The air around them shimmered again, and the cavern dissolved. This time, they were transported to a vast, cosmic expanse. Stars glittered like diamonds in the endless void, and nebulas swirled in vibrant colors. It was both beautiful and humbling, a reminder of how small and fragile life truly was. In the center of this celestial tableau stood a great sphere of light, pulsating with energy. It was unlike anything Adrian had ever seen, radiating warmth and power that seemed to reach deep into his soul. "What is that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The heart of the tapestry," Lyra replied. "It is the nexus of all existence, the thread that binds every living being across the cosmos. My people once served as its guardians, but our failure condemned us. Now, the burden falls to you." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra stepped closer to the sphere, her expression solemn. "The heart is faltering. The divisions, the conflicts, the hatred that plague countless worlds have weakened its threads. If it breaks, everything unravels. All life, all creation, will cease to exist." Adrian's chest tightened. "And you want me to fix it?" "Not alone," Lyra said. "But you must lead. Humanity has the capacity for great destruction, but also unparalleled unity. You have the power to weave the threads stronger than ever before. The question is, are you willing to bear the weight of that responsibility? Adrian approached the sphere, its light bathing him in warmth. Memories flooded his mind, the desperation of the humans, the cautious hope of the aliens, the battles, and the choices that had brought him here. He saw humanity's flaws laid bare but also its potential, its capacity for empathy, ingenuity, and resilience. What happens if I fail? He asked quietly. Lyra's expression darkened. Then all of this will be for nothing. Your species, your world, will become another forgotten thread in a tapestry undone. Adrian closed his eyes, his mind racing. The weight of the cosmos seemed to press down on him, but beneath it all, a simple truth emerged. Humanity was far from perfect, but perfection wasn't the point. Growth, change, and the willingness to try, those were what truly mattered. I'll do it, he said, his voice steady. Not because I think we're perfect, but because we can be better. Because we have to be. Lyra nodded, a rare smile gracing her lips. Then take your place, Adrian Cole. Become the thread that binds the broken. The sphere's light intensified, enveloping Adrian in its glow. He felt a surge of energy, a connection to something vast and incomprehensible. The faces of the humans and aliens he had united flashed before him, followed by countless others across the galaxy. He wasn't alone. Every choice, every act of compassion and courage, was a thread in the tapestry. Together, they could weave something stronger. As the light receded, Adrian found himself back in the cavern. Lyra stood before him, her golden eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before, pride. You have passed the trials, Adrian Cole, she said. Humanity's future is uncertain, but it is no longer doomed. The heart will guide you, but the work is yours to do. Remember, every choice matters. Every connection strengthens the whole. Adrian nodded, a quiet determination settling over him. We won't let you down. Lyra extended a hand, and when Adrian took it, he felt a surge of warmth and understanding. Go now, and remind your kind of what they can achieve together. The galaxy will watch, and perhaps, one day, follow your example. With that, Lyra stepped back, her form dissolving into light. The cavern began to fade, replaced by the familiar landscape of Avaris 9. The expedition team's camp came into view, their floodlights a beacon in the growing dusk. Adrian stood at the edge of the canyon, the weight of his experience settling over him like a mantle. He turned back to the stars, a faint smile on his lips. The trials had shown him the best and worst of humanity, but more than that, they had revealed its potential. And as long as there was potential, there was hope. Moral. The strength of humanity lies not in its perfection but in its ability to grow, to connect, and to strive for something greater. True survival is not about individual triumph but about unity, empathy, and the willingness to bear the weight of impossible choices. Together, we can weave a future worth living for.